I caught my girlfriend of 8 years cheating with my best friend at his wedding, but then I found out all of my friends knew and were laughing behind my back, so I acted like I didn't know and threw this bombshell at his wedding to not just ruin his wedding but his entire life. When I was in college, I was part of a pretty tight-knit group of friends from my department, and over the years we've stayed in touch. There are 7 of us, 4 women and 3 men. One of the guys, let's call him Ethan, was my college roommate, and we were literally inseparable. He's been my best friend since our college days, and recently I attended his wedding, which is where everything went wrong. Out of this group, I've also been dating one of the women for the past 8 years. Let's call her Nicole for context. It was Nicole who was originally closer to these people, but after we started dating I kind of became a part of the group as well. And along with me, so did Ethan. We started dating when we were in our second year. I was 20 back then, and for the past 8 years we have grown together. We've had a few rough patches, but we've always managed to make it through, and for the past year I've been talking to her about getting married, but she's been telling me that she isn't ready yet. I find really bizarre because both of us are pretty sorted on the work front, and we have even been living together for the past 4 years, so I really don't understand why it's such a big deal to get married. I value my professional life, but I also want to get married and start a family, and Nicole and I have been bickering a lot over that in the past few months. She thinks that I'm rushing it, which doesn't even make sense because we've literally been together for 8 years, and she's also been claiming that I need to focus more on my work, which also doesn't make sense because I make more money than anyone else I know, and I've been running my dad's office supplies company for the past 2 years. Lots of men do exceptionally well career-wise while being married with kids, and I'm ready to do it, so I really didn't think that she had a point, and I knew that she was just refusing to get married because she didn't want to commit to me in spite of being with me for 8 years, and I was very upset about that. So we have been fighting about this quite frequently for the past few months, but even then we haven't broken up in spite of the problems we had been having in our relationship. Given her behavior, it didn't even occur to me that she might have been cheating on me because she had been entirely normal otherwise. Either she would apologize to me or I would, but at the end of the day I thought that we would always find our way back to each other, but I don't think that's the case anymore because at Ethan's wedding I realized that she had probably been cheating on me for God knows how long, and the cherry on top was that she had been cheating on me with my best friend and the groom himself. I found out about it just a couple of days ago when I saw them for myself making out in the parking lot in my car. Of all places they could have picked, but instead of just confronting them then and there, I decided to go the theatrical way and humiliated him publicly. So for context, Nicole and I had driven to the hotel where Ethan was getting married the day before for the wedding, and in the evening we were supposed to attend the rehearsal dinner, but I was really tired from the journey and I also get really bad migraines sometimes, so I decided to skip it. Later in the evening my migraine started to get worse, and since I had forgotten my meds while packing I had to go out to buy some. That's how I ended up in the parking lot because I didn't want to walk, and I saw them going at it. I think I was there for about 45 seconds, and as soon as I figured out what was going on in the car, I just turned around and started walking away because I had no idea what to do about what I had just seen. I don't think they spotted me because they were too busy with each other, and I got lucky. By then the rehearsal dinner was already over, so I decided to go to one of my friends' rooms so I could at least talk to them about what I had just seen, hoping that maybe they would be able to comfort me, and I would find the courage to confront Ethan and Nicole when they finally came back. But instead, when I made my way to my friend's room, I heard a bunch of voices from the inside and realized that our group was sitting inside anyway. Coincidentally, they were already talking about Nicole and Ethan. Not only were they talking about them, they were all actually laughing behind my back about how clueless I was about all of this. So they had known all along and had been covering up for the two of them. The only other guy in the group, my friend Kyle, made some joke about how they were going to get caught one of these days because of all the sneaking around that they had been doing even during the wedding prep. Apparently they had even hooked up when I had gone home early at the engagement party. All of them found this very fun to talk about, and I was horrified at how casually they were discussing everything as if my feelings did not matter to them at all. So I just walked away from the door, and luckily they hadn't even noticed me lurking either, probably because they had all had a little too much to drink. I think that day was pretty much the worst one of my life. But even then, after I went back to my room and cried for About 15 minutes I decided not to let anything show because I had already started formulating my plan. I knew that I was going to teach these people a lesson of a lifetime, so when Nicole finally came back to the room I pretended like everything was normal and we went to sleep without any discussion. The next day, the day of the wedding, I greeted everybody usually, and everything was going fine until I decided to stand upright before the ceremony was supposed to start and in front of all the guests. I said that I wanted to make a speech in my friend's honor. That's not how traditionally things are done, so obviously there were some strange looks, but I guess Ethan thought I was going to make some heartfelt speech about how I was going to miss him or whatever, so he allowed it. It was a pretty big mistake on his part, because then I went on to talk about whatever I had seen the previous evening, and also brought up what I had overheard our friends talking about in their room later about the events at the engagement party while they were chilling and talking behind my back. At least at that point all of them had the good sense to look ashamed, but I don't care about them that much. I only cared about how Nicole and Ethan were going to react to my speech, and of course as soon as they realized what was going on they tried to get me to stop. It was much easier for Nicole since she was right beside me, and she started trying to get me to sit down and shut up as if that was going to help the situation, and Ethan totally flipped out and just started accusing me of being jealous of him, telling me that I was trying to ruin his wedding on purpose because my girlfriend wouldn't propose to me, so I was trying to steal his thunder. But I guess he oversold that whole act and got a little too defensive, so his fiancée ended up actually believing me, and then she walked off from the stage. When he realized that he had been left at the altar he started running after her and the whole situation descended into pandemonium. But I couldn't care less about any of that. I just shook Nicole off of me, made my way to the parking lot where I already packed my stuff and stashed my bags before the ceremony, and then I drove back home. 3 days have passed since then, and for the first 2 days I didn't hear from anyone, but yesterday Nicole told me that she and Ethan had been wrong, but what I had done was just downright psychotic, because apparently I didn't just ruin the wedding but I also destroyed his life. Now his parents don't want anything to do with him, and his fiancée has already dumped him, so he's just broken and homeless because apparently he had been counting on this wedding to help him out financially. If you catch my drift. For a less subtle explanation, let me just say that he's a total gold digger, and this wedding had been a total sham right from the beginning. He and his fiancée didn't meet through their parents earlier this year like they had been telling everyone, but actually met each other on a dating app. His fiancée is 6 whole years older than him and had an ultimatum from her parents that she could either get married and settle down or continue fooling around with a new man every week. In that way she could count on getting herself disinherited by her parents and everything would go to her sister instead. So for that reason she was willing to find somebody, but in reality she had no interest in getting married. So far she had been looking for somebody who would be okay with the idea of an open marriage, but had been unlucky. That was until she met Ethan on the dating app, and he figured out a way that this could work for both of them. He wasn't too keen on the idea of getting married either, but he had been unemployed for about a year and had his hand at a bunch of stuff, but he just couldn't find anything to keep himself interested for more than 2 to 3 months. All he really wanted was to marry someone rich and be done with it, and lucky for him his fiancée's family was pretty wealthy. I guess you guys can understand where I'm going with this. After a couple of dates they realized that this would be the best way to solve both of their problems, and for a while everything was sorted. But then I made that speech exposing him at the wedding, and of course since their parents had no idea about their personal arrangement, his fiancée had to leave because there was no way that her parents were going to approve of her marrying a man like that, especially after his friend had humiliated the entire family in front of so many people. So even if their arrangement had been convenient, it wasn't going to work anymore, and they had to call the whole thing off. He had been staying with his fiancée for the past couple of months and hadn't been doing anything productive since he had even quit the last sales job that he had. And now after the whole fiasco wedding, even his parents won't take him back, and so he has nowhere to go, and it's not like it's going to be easy for him to find a job either because he's not really qualified, and even if he does find something it's probably going to be something very low paying. So now I'm being accused of ruining his life by being insensitive because Nicole thinks I should have just confronted them in person instead of publicly humiliating the two of them and creating so much trouble for him. Even our friends don't want to speak to either of them anymore, and he's in big problem right now, and for some reason she expects me to feel bad about all this right now. Anyway, I don't particularly feel bad for Ethan, and neither do I think that his life has been destroyed. All he has to do is just find a job and stick to it and do something for himself instead of relying on other people. I don't think it's a bad thing. If anything, I've probably done him a favor, but what I do feel kind of iffy about is humiliating both families publicly, because I'm sure that the type of speech that I made did not reflect too well on either of them. And I've met Ethan's parents, and they're really lovely people, so that's the only part of whatever Nicole told me that really stuck with me, and I feel kind of bad about that part. One, feel like I could have just done away with the whole public humiliation thing and confronted them privately, broken up with Nicole, and let all of this go in a healthy way, but now I've created all this drama and I feel weird about it. So Ida, for publicly humiliating my best friend and his family at his wedding, because he and my girlfriend had been hooking up with each other. Edit, I genuinely have no idea how long this has been going on. The only information I have is whatever I overheard when I was lurking outside the room where my friends were talking about this whole thing. They were mostly just making jokes and saying stupid stuff about the situation, and the only thing of note that they said was that thing about the engagement party. I had left early because again I had a migraine, and it's not surprising. It usually does happen if I spend too long in a really loud environment. It's just a thing that I have, and I've seen a lot of doctors about it, and I'm on meds for it, but I do need a lot of rest, so I do have to go home early quite often. And since a lot of our friends are usually there, I've never thought that it would be fair to ask Nicole to come back home with me so she comes back later. Until recently I never had a reason to be suspicious of how late she would go back home, but now I'm beginning to think that this whole thing had probably been going on for a long time, and I just had no idea. It's okay though, it's over now, and they can keep hooking up to their heart's content, although I don't think that Nicole is the kind of woman that Ethan would genuinely want to spend the rest of his life with, because for starters she's not even as rich as he wants his women to be, and if they end up together she's definitely going to expect him to work because she's not okay with being the primary bread winner, since that's a lot of pressure for her. Her words, not mine, and I used to think that it was pretty an admirable quality, but I don't think Ethan will feel the same way. And then I don't think Nicole is going to be able to tolerate him because he's a much bigger drama king than me anyway. That's their problem now. Update 1. Hi, it's been 2 days since I posted, and I haven't replied to Nicole's message about whatever happened with Ethan. I'm not sorry, I don't have to feel bad about anything, because I was upset about something. I reacted in a harsh way, and that's it. If that reflects poorly on other people, that's hardly my problem. It must have hurt his parents, but honestly I can't say that I'm too sorry about that, because even though they were good people, Ethan was obviously not a good person, and he totally deserved what I did, and I'm not in the mood to apologize to anyone, not even his parents, so I'm staying out of it. For now. I did text Nicole back though, but that was only to tell her that she needs to come by soon and collect all her things so she can get the heck out of here. Obviously now that we're no longer together, I don't want her staying in my house anymore, and I really couldn't stand the sight of all her things just lying about, so I gathered all of it, packed it into some boxes, and I have kept it aside so when she does come by she can just grab those boxes and get out, and we don't end up wasting any time. She is the only person I haven't blocked yet because I need to know when she's going to come by. After that's done, I'm going to block her as well, but the rest of my friends have already been blocked, and of course Ethan was the first one that I blocked. Now that some time has passed since the incident, all the emotions have started to hit me, and I've been feeling really upset about everything. I wasn't just betrayed by one person, I was betrayed by my girlfriend, my best friend, and all these people who I thought were my family, since that's just how close our group was. Naturally, I've been very emotional about that, but thankfully my biological family has been by my side, and they have been very supportive. They've been dropping by for the past couple of days to take care of me, and more importantly make sure that I'm taking care of myself. I'm really grateful for that, because at least I have some people who are looking out for me. Update 2 highs. So today, almost 9 days after the incident, Nicole texted me in the morning and told me that she would be coming by in the evening to collect her things. I was okay with that, and since she hadn't made any attempts to contact me in the past 9 days, I had assumed that when she showed up she would probably just take her things and leave. But instead, when she came by and I started handing over the boxes to her, she told me that she wanted to look through the house in case I had missed anything. I was a bit skeptical about it, because for that I would have to let her in, and it sounded like it was going to be a tedious process. But then again, I couldn't refuse, because I might have missed something and I wanted to finish this task in one go itself. So I allowed her to come, and she looked through the house and took a few more things that I had missed, and I thought that was going to be it, that she would just take those things, put them in boxes and leave. But instead she started loitering in the living room holding those things, and it was getting really awkward. So I had to ask her if she was going to leave or not, and then she told me that she really wanted to talk to me, and she had hoped that this time around I would be more open to addressing the problem. Since quite some time had passed, it was pretty infuriating, because she was speaking to me as if several years had passed since the incident, when in reality it hadn't even been 2 weeks. Also, I don't feel like I had to address any problems with her. She cheated on me with my best friend who was about to get married, and that was it. They were the problems, not me. So I told her that I had been very clear with her when I had texted her, and I had said to her that she was only welcome here as long as she needed to collect her things. Now that she had done that, there was no need for her to talk to me or stay around anymore. But she started arguing with me, telling me that even though she had cheated, it wasn't like I was utterly perfect, and I needed to stop acting as if this was entirely her fault. Until then I had been curt with her, but I had still been trying to keep calm, even though I was getting more irritated with every passing second. Then finally, when she said that, I totally lost it at her, and I started screaming at her because I couldn't believe that she had the audacity to imply that any of this might have been my fault. I'm ready to acknowledge the fact that I'm not a perfect person, not by any means, but the way she said it, I knew she was implying that I had somehow driven her to cheat on me. And even before she started arguing back, I knew what she was going to say. Like I had mentioned in my original post, we had already been having some problems, because I wanted to settle down. I wanted to get married and start a family soon, but she was not ready for that. I knew that she was going to bring that up, because I had been thinking about it myself for a couple of days already, although in a different way, one where I was the victim, but in her opinion she was the real victim, and she was not ready to commit since it was a pretty big deal, and she thought that it was going to be a bad decision for her because she wanted to live her life a little before she got married and started the family. For the past 8 years she has only ever been with me. We have only ever done things with each other in mind. And apparently she felt like she doesn't even know who she is, which is somehow supposed to be my fault. I couldn't believe that she thought that these were valid points, because if she had really had such a massive problem with committing to me even after 8 years of being together, then clearly we had very different opinions, and we wanted very different things from life. So the only 2 ways to have dealt with that were to either keep talking about it and try to come to a common ground, or just break up. But she chose to cheat on me so she could have the best of both options, and so she could do whatever she wanted to while keeping me around as backup. And somehow I was a terrible person for not being okay with something like that. The whole victim playing thing and pretending as if we were both equally at fault here made me so mad that I ended up screaming myself hoarse at her. But even then she just kept arguing and trying to defend herself, saying that she was under a lot of stress because of me, and Ethan apparently just got her somehow in a way that I never did. I even kept asking her to leave, but she wouldn't go away, and she kept saying that I needed to understand that I was not a perfect person and I had been just as toxic as she had. I would have called the cops on her, but unfortunately I was so worked up that it didn't even occur to me. But anyway, after a while I was so totally done with the conversation that I went to the door, opened it, and just stood beside it silently while she still kept trying to defend herself. It took her several minutes to get the hint, and it was really difficult for me not to say anything while she was coming up with nonsensical arguments to defend herself, but I just stayed silent and stood beside the open door waiting for her to get out. Finally she did go, but even then she told me that I could pretend to be a saint all I wanted to, but deep down both of us knew that it took two people to ruin this relationship, and I totally agree it did take two people. It took her and Ethan, but I didn't say that it would have just started up another whole thing, and I didn't have the time or energy for that. So she walked out, I shut the door and finally started trying to calm down, because talking to her had really riled me up. Even when we were together she did have a lot of difficulty in admitting when she was wrong, but back then I used to find it kind of endearing, but today it was just the worst thing ever, and I'm really happy that she left when she did, because otherwise I think I might have thrown something at her. Anyway, that's done now, she's gone, and I'm just really relieved I've blocked her already, and now I'm going to spend more time focusing on myself, because I think I really need it. I've already started going to the gym more often since it really helps me stay distracted, and I'm also journaling. It's going to be baby step before I finally feel like I'm over everything, because after all, regardless of how it ended, it was still an 8-year relationship, so it's definitely going to leave a mark whether I like it or not. All I can keep trying to do is make sure that this mark doesn't bother me too much, I guess. Update 3. Hi, so it's been 2 years since my last update. I've been thinking about posting here for quite some time, and I finally got around to logging in today, so here's an update on how everything's going on the work front. Everything is fantastic, even better than before, and I'm very happy. I've also become kind of a fitness freak, and it feels good. I haven't had any contact with those people from college for the past 2 years, and I really don't care how any of them are doing. My family has been there for me every step of the way, taking care of me and making sure that I'm doing well, and that's all that I need. I have very few friends now, just a couple of folks from school and some coworkers, but at least they are good people who genuinely care about me, and for the past few weeks I've also been seeing someone dating. Had been entirely off the table for me in the past year or so, because I was still dealing with the trauma of my last relationship, but then one of my friends introduced me to her cousin at her birthday party, and she's really sweet, really kind, and I don't know why I just felt really drawn to her right from the first time that we met. My friend set me up on a date with her, and we've been going out for a while. I told her everything about my last relationship and how long it went on, so I want to take it kind of slow with her before we get serious, and she totally understands that. She respects me and my opinions, and she's so sweet that she's even told me that she's ready to wait because I seem like the perfect guy for her. We're also on the same page about marriage and kids. She wants that just as much as I do, and I think I finally found somebody who is right for me. At least I'm much happier than Nicole and Ethan, who got married a couple of months after my last update, but they couldn't even make their marriage work for a year. They ended up getting divorced within a year, and I found out about it from one of my old acquaintances from college who's a bit of a gossip. I can't say that I feel bad for them at all, since that would be a total and blatant lie, but I do hope that this serves as a good lesson to them, and they don't end up screwing over other people in the future as they did to me, although they are pretty horrible, so they might anyway. That being said, I feel like I'm genuinely over whatever happened, and yeah, I'm happy.